In this lesson, we'll work a bit on our improvisation skills. And I recorded this lesson in different parts, on different levels. So if you start here from the very beginning, that means that you don't have to have any skills when it comes to improvising. You can just jump in. And then for each part, it's going to get a tiny bit trickier. But still, the whole lesson with all its parts is staying on some kind of basic level. So maybe you can do them all. And if you do them all, that's meant to prepare you a bit for some of the other concept lessons on the website. So we're going to look at improvising, and we're going to look at harmony knowledge, or our knowledge of harmonies on the fiddle. And that will prepare us a bit for second voice playing and accompaniment playing. Improvised second voice playing and accompaniment playing, which is a big part of some of the concept lessons on the website. And we're going to use some specific chords. For this lesson, we're going to look at D major, G major, and A major. So the tonic, the subdominant, and the dominant of D major. You don't need to know all this theory behind it. I'm just saying it for those of you who really love that kind of thing, like me, for instance. So we're going to look first at D major, the chord, and we're going to find the chord notes on the violin. So let's just say I don't have my fifth string, I don't have a C string. It's beginning with a G. So first let's just find the notes of D major, the chord. All of our Ds, F sharps, and As in the first position on a fiddle. And if you want help with this, there are PDFs on the website that shows you the string and finger. For instance, G1, which is the A that we're going to start on. So find the PDF that corresponds to this part if you want. It's called D major. Or otherwise, just go with the lesson by ear. So the lowest note from our D major chord that I can find on a 4-string fiddle is the first finger G, which is an A. So find that one. And then let's go for the open D. The second finger, F sharp, open A string. Third finger A is D. First finger E is F sharp. And third finger is A. Back down, F sharp, D, A, F sharp, D, and A. And those are the only notes we're allowed to use for the first part of this exercise. So we're going to improvise now. We're going to use one note on each of the measures of a waltz that we'll improvise together. A waltz in D major, and it only uses the D major chord right now. So one note, second note, third note, fourth note. On every one of a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 of a waltz beat, every first beat of a measure gets a new note. And you choose which one from all the notes of D major. Okay. Doesn't matter where you start and where you finish. We'll just do this for a small while and then I'll show you something new. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Just one note on each measure, counting to 3 in each measure. And I'm trying to make it into some kind of a waltz swing from the start, so I'm not very linear. I'm trying to add the swing if I have the capacity. So play with a good swing if you have one, if you feel like you have time over to add some swing to it. And if you feel like I'm not ready to go for the swing yet, then you can just go with linear notes. And if you feel like you're ready for another challenge, you could add some swing and you're looking for the next challenge. Try to use 2 notes on each measure. So rather than just taking an F sharp, I could take an F sharp and an A. So practicing double stops on each measure if you want. Otherwise, stay with one note. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. continue with the next part of the exercise. Rather than shifting notes only once per bar, we're going to do it 2 times on the 1 and the 3. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. So twice in each measure. Still only using the notes from the D major chord. So only Ds, F sharps and As. And if you feel like it, if it feels like you want to phrase with it, you're allowed to only use 1 long note through the measure as well. But either 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, or just long, long, 1, 3, 1. So you can mix a bit between having 1 long or the 1 and the 3. Okay, so much freedom. Okay, 1, 3, 1, and go! Sounds a bit like some kind of trumpet melody or something. For the next part of the exercise, we're going to add movements between the chord notes. And for the movements, we're going to use all the notes of the D major scale. So let's just find out what those notes are before we start improvising with them. If we start on the open D string, the notes would be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. If we continue upwards, they would have the same names: D, E, F sharp, G, and let's stop on the A. Or let's not, let's add the B, and then go down. Under the D, we have the high third finger, C sharp. All the way down to G, back up, A, B, C sharp, and D. Those are the notes of the D major scale all over the violin in the first position. So, now when I play this little D major improvisation, I'll still land on a chord note on all of the first beats. That's my main assignment. That's still the most important thing to do, to land on a chord note on the 1. But between, I can, instead of just jumping to the next chord note, I can fill out the blanks between. So if I, for instance, start on the open D string, and the next one I'm going for is the F sharp, I could fill in with the E. The same thing between F sharp and A. And here I have 4 between the A and the D. So I'm filling in the blanks between, which makes it a scale movement. Or I can also jump sometimes and run in scales sometimes. So you're free to do different leading movements towards the next chord note. The most important thing is to always have a chord note on the 1, and also maybe often on the 3, but most important on the 1. Because if I start landing on a lot of other notes for the 1s, it's gonna feel like we've shifted chords. If I would do like this, I have a very strong sense of landing on some kind of a G chord. So that means I have to still keep landing on D major notes on all the ones of the measure. I think I've said that enough times now. You're tired of me now, so let's go. Okay, you're free to fill in the blanks or just start by having the ones like the beginning of the exercise if you feel like you need some time to listen to how this sounds. Chord notes on the ones, often on the threes, lines between. Good luck. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. I'm going to invite a second version of myself to show you, if you feel like this is difficult, how it can sound when you do this together with me. Because if it feels like you're not finding any solutions, I want you to just be able to hear it once, what we're going for. So the second Mia is getting ready now, and she's going to play the same kind of music, the same kind of improvisation, landing on chord notes on all the ones and most of the threes, with lines between. And since we're both using D major as our foundation for this exercise, it's going to sound as if we're in the same harmony. Okay, the second Mia gets ready. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Okay, and we're gonna do G major now. So the next chord in the key of D major, the subdominant, is the G major. And we're gonna do it just the same way, but just a teeny tiny bit faster. So we're gonna do all the notes of G major that we can find on a violin in the first position, beginning on the open G string. And then finding all our G's, B's, and D's all the way up to the fourth finger on the E string. It's G, it's B, D, G, B, D, G, and B, going down again. And if it feels like these notes are difficult to find, once again, you can look at those PDF files on the website where the G chord is listed. You have both the version of strings and fingers, like for instance, G open and G second finger and so on, and the names of the notes. So you can choose the one that suits you, or just go by ear with the lesson. So you know the drill. Let's start by only finding chord notes on the first beat. So only G's, B's, and D's are permitted right now, and only on the first beat of these waltz beats, waltz measures. Okay, good luck. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And just like before, if it feels like you have overcapacity, you don't know what to do with all the time, you can add double stops if you want, 2 notes at the same time. And there's also another thing that I would like to throw at you if you feel like you're up for a new challenge. And that is to do something, improvise something, and then try to repeat it again, which means that you'll have to listen to what you're doing at the same time, which makes you have to focus in a specific way, listening to what you're improvising rather than just jumping around, finding notes. So there are 3 levels now. Either just find the notes, or 4 levels. Find the notes, add some swing, add double string sometimes, double stops, or add the assignment of recording on your internal recording device and then repeating after yourself. Okay, once more. G major, only the first beat and only G major chord notes. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Okay, going on. The next part of the exercise, just like in the D exercise, we're gonna find another chord note on the 3rd beat of the measure. So 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, and very much good luck. And just like in the D major part of the exercise, we're now going to go for finding the scale to produce those leading movements, like scale movements between the chord notes in our improvisation. And now comes the tricky part, because most of these tunes, if we would say this is a happy major tune with not so many fancy variations and so on, just our basic happy summer waltzy kind of tune. Usually, if you think of it, if you've seen sheet music for a tune of this kind, they don't shift key signature. The key signature is D major, and that stays through the whole tune maybe, without accidentals even, without changing the intonation of any of the notes. Which means that the D major scale is going to stay, even though we shift chord to G major. And this is a bit tricky because it's difficult to play a G major scale with the key signature of D major. D major, we've just looked at that before, has the F raised to an F sharp. And the second accidental, or the second cross in the key signature lifts the C up to a C sharp. But what's the difference between a G scale and a D scale? In a G scale, there's a C and not a C sharp. So that's the thing we're going to have to remember now, because we're not going to use accidentals. We're not going to change the intonation of the notes in this improvisation. We're staying with D major, even though the chord shifts to G. So now we're going to play a G major scale with C sharp instead of C. Very unpedagogic emphasis in that sentence. Okay, so this is the tricky part. The 3 is gonna be high. Okay, from the beginning, from the scale of G with D major key signature. G, A, B, C sharp. Here it's just normal G, C sharp. Up to B and down again. C sharp. C sharp. Landing on G. And this might feel really strange right now, but I promise you that very many of these tunes don't actually shift the scale when the chord shifts. You're gonna notice, I think, if you start improvising with the melody to a tune that you recognize, you're gonna hear what I mean. If there are no accidentals in the sheet music, usually the scale just stays the same all through the tune. Okay, so now G major again. The chord G major provides us with the notes for the first beat of every measure, often also the third beat. It sounds good to have a chord note there as well. So G, B, and D is our first beat of the measure, and between we fill out with the scale of D major. Whew. I usually really mess this up because when we don't have a tune to do it with, it just feels so unlogical. Okay, good luck to me and to you. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Going to A major, same procedure. Finding the notes of A major chord, which is A, C sharp, and E, starting on the first finger G. Okay. And A, second finger, E, third finger, back down. First position on the violin, those are the notes of the A major chord. And A major is the dominant in the D major key. So let's just do once, a bit short, finding the chord notes of A on every one. If you want to add some levels, you can, either just find the notes or do it with a swing or add a double stop as soon as you feel like you're ready for it. You can also cheat if you want and do different notes on the 1 and the 3 if you feel anxious to get on with it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. If you haven't done it yet, add the second chord note on the third beat. So now we have that rhythm. and sometimes long notes if you want, and sometimes double strings if you want. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And you can repeat if you want. Do something, listen to it, and then repeat it. So fancy. Okay. Adding the D major scale between the A major chord notes. Let's look at the D major scale again. We had so our biggest difference compared to an A major scale, which we would maybe naturally want to use when we're playing an A major chord, the big difference is the 7. In an A, we would very much use the G sharp as the 7, the leading note to the root note, the 7 in the scale. And in this case, in D major, we don't have G sharp, we have the G. And now it starts to make some sense, at least for people who have played chord instruments, because it's so very common for the dominant chord to have a low 7. We even call it the dominant 7. We recognize that sound from A major 7 with the dominant 7 and back to the tonic. So we're gonna do A major, but we're gonna have the notes of the D major scale because the key signature haven't changed, even though we're playing the A major chord. So chord notes of A major on every one and almost every 3 maybe. Little movements between on the scale of D major. That's going to produce an A major with a dominant 7 feel. Okay, good luck. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Great job! If it feels like you need to practice this a bit more before jumping to the next level, where we're going to change the chords. In the same exercise, we're going to do D, G, and A, which means shifting the chords but staying with the same scale. So if it feels like you need to practice this a bit more, do so, and then jump to the next part of the lesson.